Oh, everybody, please look up the word misprision and think about it first from the perspective of Native Americans. Suburbs entrenched. Our founders were not even born yet. Slavery was entrenched north and south. It was a slavery method against everyone involved with it. That's part of the reason why and how it was from abroad. It was greater than and more finite than the North American slave trade. It was a method that measured and maintained the only natures of sophistication to counter criminal insidiousness, to counter criminal foreign influences, to counter tactical delusions, manifest in the syntax of everyone. I am not a lawyer. The lawyers recorded roles, misprision, self value. The only way to cause positive value nature progressions, while nature was demonstrating the ground was tactically denatured. And why and how we are active consciousness, not just ourselves, other animals. If you have a pet, you'd be amazed at how intelligent animals are. If you've had a pet and you pay attention, some pets usually catch you, leave them alone. They just go. The thing is, misprision, and see, this method knew that our founders left us to explain slavery, for example, not leaving out witch trials relative to their slavery. Excuse me. They left us not. They communicated for us not to leave out their slavery, and why and how they had to counter extort the other founders, and why and how they had to be chiefs, just like why and how Native Americans had to fight with Native Americans. They took their proper syntax. You take their education. You take what you. They force them to equality of fact, human nature, leaving out details, leaving out exceptions, exception nature, leaving out the roles of the courts, whether witch trials are real or not, with as predators at other locations, everyone against everyone, and pretending other, and because naturally we want to, and this all used remotely from abroad, and so it would maintain that by by maintaining individuals and groups. Excuse me, I need to get a cleaner. My bad, people. So understand the breaching method there. There is the this is also the five identities of order. There is the order of truth before the order of the finite, which is the order of the smallest details, value of the republic, but is also the order of the finite. We can only grapple, we can only grapple with the finite one way, completely, where it is positive and also positive unto itself. And we can only grapple with what is too great, things greater than ourselves, individually grouped and together. There is an identity that binds them, which is scientifically discernible. Where and how that is debatable. Getting through delusions, tactical, and just natural, and criminal foreign influences. Criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects in nature. Getting through that, all the roles with the force, quality, of fact, black and white. They get everyone behind racism, not what's true always. Leave out the breaching method the whole time. That's measured and maintained by the breaching method. that extort the country's group too. That's why they're the same way. Any individual leader is going to be above locations, areas, and states, still criminal insidiousness. The uses of names already locked. Databases since before computers. Value/value progression. It's words. The human volume science is words. Others now. Other systems. This people, Native Americans shouldn't have to fight about this. And there's one way to fight that hurts not one. And what it will reveal is us fighting about how we are all hyper Native American. And then the word, when everyone wins because we learn what nature shows us. Native Americans are additionally the human volume science when we speak for our own as Americans, still under the breaching method that knew that modern countries would have to would counter wrongly things like criminal insidiousness, things like criminal foreign influences. I meant to say rather both of those, but it's true. But criminal foreign influences. It knew that it would have where names were it employed names. This is what our founders left us, not just America. This is what Mao Zedong. We're not supposed to speak for Mao Zedong, but what he communicated. There was criminally foreign influence. Not that because we're grouped. We are a human species volume science that is individual group, the species body. We didn't design it. All systems not with logic that left out this. Only increasing value of truth as itself before the order of the finite now. It shows us the increasing value of the discernment, for example, of the breaching method leveraged against sustained, already having been sustained against the Native Americans. What's the value of that? How long have people said, oh, our founders had slaves? What's the evidence? Our founders left us to demonstrate those games from off the campuses, off all locations, uh, sustained. Part of this, why it's necessary to discern the sustained part against Native Americans, against the people that were apart with that, already having had it sustained against them. See suits and ties. I don't know who invented them, but there were probably there were definitely other influences. It's not. This is not a thing. For example, one of the reasons forgiveness is important is because we're speaking about the hyper invisible. If we're speaking about logic and or consciousness, honestly, if we're speaking about identity, honestly, if we're speaking about the law, honestly, say leave out exceptions and exception nature. They leave out how truths are spoken as a means to measure and maintain collusions with countries individually grouped together, having been employed by a breaching method without realizing to what not just hurts others to use it remotely from abroad for the known reason, and all those increasingly discovered and what they do with it. All that is measured and maintained. Defenses of itself and what has been use of ground locations. The suburbs were designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, while simultaneously employing instead of the way nature does, which that's how the hyper invisible but still discernible is in demonstration of itself. It has positive and negative with simultaneous relationship to the identity. where more and more forever nature can't help but be temporary, positive unto itself, temporary, but also further positive to itself, is also why the value of understanding this, the significance of the value of understanding this, too. That and how there are these five identities of order. I'm not a doctor. It's also recorded since founding the doctors of mental health care in their database. They have been involved with attaching everyone and everyone around them to fake words. A whole bunch of other additional motivations, natures, needs, interests were not only just propagated by the breaching method relative to the sustained part, but it was using qualities, aspects, and natures of criminally foreign influence, fact keeping nature, manifest phenomena, and tactical delusion. You know, at first sustained and cultivated by itself, and assigned all those roles, hurt each other. Fact keeping nature oriented wise. When you're hurting each other, fact keeping nature oriented wise. You're hurting each other simultaneously. You're hurting what's its system. In other words, you're wasting time with the instant understanding, revelation. So we still have experts, not just with tactical delusions and actual delusions, the experts on delusion. This is one of the reasons they have also roles with courts, and they've had them so long. Forgiveness is not to attack the ground bodies, leaving out the foreign parts, the foreign influences. And it is not to blame the other countries because they have the same problems there. What they raised to speak about debate communicates other for our founders than they asked communicated for themselves. For example, they asked for us to communicate about criminal foreign influences. But they obviously, if you ask your soul, if you ask your consciousness, what does every body of the species body want and need at the same time? For example, to address how nature is communicating to us how we need to eat all the time. Now, through these systems of criminal insidiousness, only ones that we're reliant upon it, and getting out of it together. It locked the species needing food from other places. That's one all kinds of ways it makes people hurt each other. They don't even near strangers. It's not about this when we're seeing we're dealing with. We have to use what we can discern, which is through ourselves, individually grouped it together. But we have to not leave out hyper archetypal criminal enterprise method and a self value. In other words, it's discernible. More, you know, we need to if we do this together as a species volume, it's the leverage we have. Where opinions are all a certain type of victim that relies on takes of law. The left and leaves out exception nature. That left and leaves out the identity of relativity we know exists. It is these five identities of order, positive to itself, simultaneously or not. These five identities of sequence / simultaneous nature. One way to an extent as itself, but only one to an extent. Because we only have a portion of its complete volume, the hyper simultaneous. but its identity being every other identity. This is how we simultaneously semi know and semi don't, which shows us we can know more too in its conjunction, hyper conjunction rather, to revelation. For example, with so short words that are using truths and or truth that is true always, not denying the slightest exception, not valuing the slightest exception, not valuing fake exceptions being and having been set up. Counters to the fake slavery, leaving out the parts of the slavery roles where everyone was a slave. Everyone sickly distinctly too to measure and maintain identities, voices of humanity speaking to counter again things like criminal insidiousness, criminal foreign influences relative to slavery. Instead, even in other words, they were coached, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, influenced north and south to blame other things, others, or selves as roles with narratives and natures in books and with the array of schools, campuses, these campuses of the republic for which we stand, not just America, not just the countries that were part of the republic. There are proofs before it was criminally foreign influence. It wouldn't. In other words, it knew it wanted to be the exceptions and exception nature and self valued that for the same reason they self value how we spoke different languages and shared distinctly from how they do now. Because now we have self value, identity, negative value, nature progression. Because I was employed that way. Because they are simultaneous. There are simultaneous criminal insidiousness, positive identities of positives and a positive treatments relative to the logic and to the syntax, therefore functions. We are quality as fact, treatment nature. We're in how we are. Value as nature slash nature as value simultaneously. Right to left and left to right at the same time, but distinctly. Where and how nature gives and gave us already, as they gave the agents already, the means to discern answers that we still have replaced. Everyone knows. I hope. Everyone old enough knows. If you've seen enough television, things like that, and read books, they describe the ancients as being ignorant or as intelligent with music in the background. Descriptions of all. See, this crime method had rolled with all crime scenes from abroad and then further concentrated because it had complete possession of all countries' group too, their logic. Then and now, effectively measures and maintains our founders blamed for slaves right through our schools. And all exception nature, same demonstration, same thing. We have the intelligence community involved with planting evidences. Any excuse or mistake, legitimate, they self value that as collusions with the importance of understanding the foreign influences part and simultaneously understanding that not one modern country's name is not a victim of the same thing simultaneously, which doesn't mean ignore it consciously needs wars. It is so strong and is simultaneously so weak but and it's against everyone, non-distinct. We have suburbs from here across the globe that we have infrastructure since before our founders were even before cars, before they were even born. The suburbs were designed. That certain kind of pretty a criminal insidiousness nature of positive theater. Certain type of victim slash hyper victim with no clue what the what was functional by its breaching method with databases and the Republic criminally foreign influence, criminally re-engineered before it was semi liberated, but not at last yet, as yet. To quote our king, boxing, black pupils, pair. Okay, just kidding. Have a great night. Thank you.